Hello boys, welcome back to another session of video tutorials, and this is meant for class 12th biology students, and this is meant for 9th July 2020. If you recollect from your memory, it helps you to trace that we were talking about various issues concerning with our biodiversity. What is biodiversity? Bios means life, diversity forms, different life forms existing in an ecosystem, in a biosphere is biodiversity. And in our previous sessions, we talked about the importance of biodiversity, then patterns of biodiversity, important species diversity in an ecosystem, and then we talked about loss of biodiversity and what causes the losses in biodiversity and all that. And today, in this session, we are going to talk about reasons for biodiversity conservation. Why should we conserve biodiversity? For 3 reasons, we should conserve biodiversity. 1. Narrowly utilitarian reason. 2. Broadly utilitarian reason. And 3rd, most important, ethical utilitarian. So ethically, we are bound to do conservation of biodiversity. What do you mean by that? Narrowly utilitarian. The utility is limited, but they are very, very useful to us. So biodiversity gives us food in the form of cereals, pulses, fruits. So we should conserve. Otherwise, imagine, without biodiversity, no food. And biodiversity is giving firewood. It is giving fiber. It has got a lot of medicinal plants through which we are extracting medicines. Already you know cinchona, we talked about it. And then construction material, wood, and then industrial products. Many industrial products are also we are obtaining from the biodiversity. So because of these reasons that we should conserve biodiversity. And second one, broadly utilitarian. Ecosystem services like provision of pollinators, climate regulation, flood control, soil erosion control, ecological balance through nutrient cycling. For these reasons, these are broad in outlook, hence we need to conserve. And as you all of you know, Amazon forest produces 20% of the total oxygen in the atmosphere on earth. That's why we say lungs of the earth. Amazon forests are lungs of the earth. But remember a sad thing that happened last month. The Amazon forests were on fire. The fire was uncontrollable. And you can see the BBC document sitting in your home. The pathetic scenes of endangered animals getting burnt alive, innocent animals getting burnt, and most valuable medicinal plants are getting burnt. It's a very sad thing. And more than anything else, the unseen one, the oxygen in the atmosphere must have come down. So we are burning our own lungs. That is the reason why we say human beings need to control their aspirations. And pollination of plants through pollinators, you are seeing every day birds, insects, bats, all these moving from flower to flower, hovering from plant to plant, and in the process of taking the food honey, they help in transportation of pollen grains. And then aesthetic pleasures of walking through thick woods, watching springing flowers. I'm sure whenever we walk through thick jungles, the pleasure that we get cannot be described. We can only feel it. That's how it's a broadly utilitarian reason we need to conserve. And what about ethical utilitarian? There are millions of plants, animals, and microbes on this earth with whom we share our ecosystems. So we need to respect those lives also. Each species on this earth has some intrinsic value. Every organism that has taken birth on this earth has its own value. We cannot reduce the value or ill-treat that organism. That is the reason why we say respect the co-living organisms. And there is a slogan, live and let live. We should live and allow all other living organisms that are surrounding us in an ecosystem to live happily. Then only the ecosystem flourishes. Biosphere flourishes with biodiversity. It is therefore our moral duty to take care of all the living creatures and pass on our biological legacy in good order to future generations. So every living species has an intrinsic value, though it may not have any direct economic value, and also every species has a right to live. We cannot measure everything in life in terms of money. Money is not alone the criteria. There are other moral and ethical values that we need to count. So because of these three reasons, we need to conserve biodiversity. What are those three? Narrowly utilitarian, broadly utilitarian, and ethically utilitarian. And we need to go for conservation methods. There are two methods through which we conserve the biodiversity. One is called in situ conservation and ex situ conservation. In situ conservation, it is the conservation and protection of the whole ecosystem and its biodiversity at all levels in order to protect the threatened species. Two methods are being used to save biodiversity: hotspots and protected areas. Biodiversity hotspots, these are the areas characterized by very high levels of species richness. That's why they are called hotspots. High degree of endemism, that's a danger. And also accelerated habitat loss. The loss is very, very fast. That's why we need to protect these hotspots. Ecologically, hotspots are determined by four factors. How to identify that a particular thing is a hotspot? Four factors are responsible. Number of species diversity. How many organisms, plants and animals are there in that ecosystem? That is the first criteria to decide an area as a hotspot. Second one is degree of endemism. What is the disease that which is spreading fast and it is eliminating the plants and animals. Degree of threat to habitat due to its degradation and fragmentation. What is the speed with which there is a threat for the habitat? And the fourth one, degree of exploitation. How is that ecosystem is getting exploited or by the animals and the human beings virtually. And you have got protected areas. Along with the hotspots, we need some protected areas. These are national parks. They are large areas meant for the protection of flora and fauna, animals and plants, and are maintained for scientific, educational and recreational use. This is the main aim of national parks. They are not usually used for commercial extraction. It is not doing any business with the national parks. The main area is protecting it. And then sanctuaries, wildlife sanctuaries. These are tracts of land with or without lake where wild animals, fauna can take refuge without being hunted. These are also protected areas. All the wildlife can be kept there. And then biosphere reserves are multi-purpose protected areas meant for preserving genetic diversity, gene diversity in representative ecosystems of various natural biomes and unique biological communities. These are biosphere reserves. Vast biosphere reserves are there, and the main aim is to preserve the genetic diversity. And then sacred groves. Sacred groves are forest patches around places of worship. Like if you come to our Tirumala, Lord Balaji's, so a lot of thick forests are there. And these are held in high esteem by tribal communities. We are seeing that in Karnataka, Maharashtra, Rajasthan. So the tribal people only are given the responsibility to protect those sacred forests sacred lakes, and these are called sacred groves. And Red Data Book, there is a book maintained by IUCN. That is, what is IUCN? International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So sometimes he will ask you in the examination, CBSE exam, expand IUCN. So what is IUCN? International Union of Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. And this is also called World Conservation Union, WCU. And it maintains one book called Red Data Book or Red List, which is a catalog of taxa facing risk of extinction. So that Red Data Book in detail gives about various animals and plants that are under threat, that are under extinction. So the red list categories, first one is extinction. Second one is critically endangered, and third one is vulnerable, and fourth one is extinct in wild, and fifth endangered, sixth lower risk, and then data deficient, we don't have sufficient data, rare species, not evaluated, indeterminate species. So the red list categories are the following. When we say extinct, the taxon has been completely eliminated or died from the earth. We are not able to see that henceforth. Example, the other day I showed the picture, dodo. Critically endangered. The taxon is facing very high risk of extinction in the wild and can become extinct any moment in the immediate future. Like pygmy hawk, so it's very, very rare. And third, vulnerable. Presently the population is sufficient. At present there is no danger, but is undergoing depletion due to some factor or factors, so that it is facing risk of extinction in medium term future. Example, clouded leopard. So at present it is there, but future is question mark. Extinct in wild. This taxon is absent in any of its natural or expected habitats in the wild. We are not able to spot that. Then we say extinct in wild. Endangered. It is facing high risk of extinction in the wild in near future due to decrease in its habitat, excessive predation or poaching. For example, lion-tailed macaque and black panther. These are all getting endangered. Lower risk. They are threatened species which have lower risk of extinction and therefore require only small attention to become normal flourishing species. These are okay. We can preserve them. We can maintain them. And then data deficient. The data for making direct or indirect assessment of risk of extinction is deficient. We don't have, for certain taxa, we don't have sufficient data. Whether they are there, whether they are endangered, whether they are extinct, we have no data. Then rare species. They are species with naturally small populations, either localized or thinly scattered, which are always at risk from pests, pathogens, predators, exotic species. Very rare species, they are under threat. And some last not evaluated. The taxon has not been evaluated for risk of extinction. We are not able to evaluate particular taxon. And indeterminate species. Species are in danger of extinction, but the reason not known. We don't know why particular species are getting extincted. So, in the two methods of conservation, we do in situ and ex situ. And in the ex situ, it is the conservation of threatened plants and animals outside their natural habitat. See, in situ, it is in their natural habitat, like national park, wildlife sanctuaries, all this. Here it is in situ. We are making it like zoological park. You have all seen Mysore Zoo, botanical gardens, like your Mysore botanical gardens. Wildlife safari, must have seen in Bangalore, Bannerghatta, wildlife safari. So this is ex situ. Protection of animals or plants when they are in endangered or threatened and needs urgent measures to save from extinction. So how to do this ex situ? we will be talking about this in our next session. Until then, take care, take your ecosystem, take care of your biosphere, and do respect the fellow living organisms. And to wind up, I hope you all opened the list that I had put in our WhatsApp group, wherein the CBSE has deleted some portions in our biology. So please go through that. In this chapter, everything is there. And this unit has 4 chapters, as you know. Now, the CBSE has removed 2 chapters, that is ecosystem and environmental issues. That is, last chapter also is deleted. So we have got only populations and this present chapter, biodiversity. And it's worth 12 marks, means each chapter 6 marks. Present chapter also 6 marks. So please focus your attention on this. And you need to have the smart study now. Go in detail. After going in detail my study material, please go for the selective study and guess from which topic questions will come in board exam. And I'll be there always to help.